about going from victimhood to victorious. And we have two wonderful panelists today, CeCe Telfer and Councilwoman Andrea Jenkins. And I'll give a much deeper introduction in just a few minutes, but I'm really grateful for you all to attend. Before we begin, I'm going to invite everyone in right now. If we can just take a deep breath. Together we will create today a brave space, because there is no such thing as a completely safe space. You see, we exist in this real world. We all carry scars and we all have caused wounds in this space. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and more love. We have the right to start somewhere, and we have the right to continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know, and we won't be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side today. That was a poem by Mickey Scott B. Jones, and that should set the tone for our engagement thus far. We have two group agreements. They are this. Today, let's agree to honor the experiences and perspectives espoused here today with great respect, deep honesty, and with overarching love. The second agreement is see Agreement 1. So as we begin, I want to introduce to you, first of all, Derek Scalia is the Director of Diversity and Retention. He is my co-conspirator in most of these events, and he will be running all things electronic because, again, I can barely answer my cell phone. So thank you, Derek. And then, of course, I want to introduce to you today our President, Kim Mooney, who is the very first female alum president of Franklin Pierce University. So welcome, President Mooney.
Back at you. Thank you. So thank you. Pierre and I chatted, and I just wanted to add my voice to today's welcome to such impressive, accomplished women, and to welcome you, Andrea Jenkins, to Franklin Pierce University, and to welcome back our own alumna, CeCe Telfer, to have this and host this conversation. I'm thrilled that we are celebrating LGBTQIA+ month together with a number of really wonderful events to raise the visibility of our embracing of all people. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we really try to live every day our diversity, equity, and inclusion statement that we developed together as a community. And it starts with the premise that we just embrace and value the intrinsic worth of every individual. That is who we are as a university. And I think that that's where we launch from. And to Pierre's poem, that was absolutely beautiful. I'm going to ask for that reference again because I'm going to want to use it. But Andrea and CeCe, we are really just delighted to have you here to talk to us today. And we are really eager to hear your stories. So thank you.
Thank you, President Mooney.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Pierre.
Thank you, President Mooney. Like I said, this is not going to be a perfect space, but it's real, right? All right. So thank you so much, President Mooney, for just taking the time out to acknowledge what we're doing here today. Let's jump right on in. Let me introduce everyone. All right. I am grateful to introduce Vice President and Councilwoman Andrea Jenkins, who has over 30 years of public service, is the first African-American trans woman to be elected to City Council, representing the good people of Ward 8 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which includes the 38th Street and Chicago Avenue intersection, where George Floyd was murdered by a Minneapolis police officer on May 25th, 2020. Councilwoman Jenkins ran for office on a platform of 1, leadership, 2, access, 3, equity. And under her leadership, the Minneapolis City Council has declared
I'm getting into a lot
racism
of
a public health emergency, established a truth and reconciliation process for the city, established a community-centered cultural development corridor for the city, specifically for the East 38th Street community, and identified and continues to identify opportunities for structural change to the public safety system in Minneapolis. But truly, Councilwoman Jenkins, she'll tell you her best accomplishment is that she is a mother, a grandmother, an international performance artist, a published poet, and best-selling writer. So welcome, Councilwoman Jenkins, glad to have you.
Thank you, Pierre. What a great introduction. I really appreciate it. Yeah, awesome. You know, what you didn't mention is I actually went to school just a little south of you guys at Southern New Hampshire University, or SNU, as it were. And when I actually started there, it was New Hampshire College. So it was a little while ago, but.
So, okay, I will have to put that in the next introduction. I appreciate that. And although we're glad that you came to college here in New Hampshire, we're really not interested in the college, that particular college that you went to. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jenkins. All right, and our next guest is CeCe Telfer, who is a Jamaican American athlete who in June of 2019 became the first openly transgender woman to win an NCAA title. Telfer became an NCAA national champion in the 400-meter hurdles event, which put her on the trajectory of becoming a United States Olympic hopeful for the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. Telfer gained wide public recognition after Donald J. Trump quoted an article title referring to Telfer as a biological male, calling her recent competition wins a grave injustice against young women. Telfer also competes in the 60-meter, 100-meter, and 200-meter. I didn't know that, CeCe. In June of 2021, Telfer qualified for the 2021 U.S. Olympic team trials, track and field in the 100-meter and 400-meter hurdles. So I'm going to say, welcome, CeCe. Welcome to you both. I am thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
I learned a lot about
you for having me
as I was doing research. Absolutely. So we're going to jump right on in, and I have some predetermined questions that I sent you all, knowing that we were just going to have a conversation and then open it up for our colleagues to ask questions as well. Okay. All right. So before I begin, did I leave anything out, CeCe or Councilwoman Jenkins,
no,
that you would like to? No. Good. Okay. All right.
We're good.
All right, so today we are talking about how to go from victim to victorious, and how do we create those coping skills that we need in order for us to move and to thrive in this world, especially when our own identities are sometimes looked at as barriers to achieving success. Now, you two did it, so tell me how you did it. The first question is, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? And how has your identity, your intersectionality, supported or helped you develop your purpose? I know, right?
That one was
boy.
deep. You just like threw that. It's like,
that's
wow.
Okay.
I know it's not like you sent it to us or anything.
I did.
Well, I will just have to honestly say, if you sent it, I just haven't had a chance, man. My life has been so
that's okay,
so
because
busy.
It's going to make the conversation more real.
Yeah, no, it's totally real. I'm in the
authentic.
moment. In authenticity. What is my
I can try to answer.
The mission, you said?
So let me repeat it, okay? I'm gonna give you a little bit more time to think. What is your purpose, and how has your identity, your intersectionality supported or helped you in developing that purpose? So, CeCe, whatever you're doing
absolutely.
right now, right? How has who you are helped or hindered you reaching your goals or your purpose?
Okay, yes. Thank you so much for that question. That's a great question. First of all, I would like to say, my purpose, I believe, on this earth, and I'm sorry if I apologize for anybody who's not religious. I'm not trying to put my religion onto you. However, I know that my purpose on this earth is a message from God, and that message was to change the world. And it's be the change you want to see in the world. And I've always followed that. And that being said, I know that me living my life and doing what I'm doing will create a safe environment for other people to thrive. And it just shows that there's a change coming, right? And me just showing up and representing for what I stand for creates that safe space of, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then just paving the way and creating that slicker road, a little easier road for everybody else to come, like the children to come, the next generation to come. It gives me a purpose, and it makes the dream, the goal of changing the world more achievable, and that it enhances my purpose in life, I guess you can say. And from where I've come from in life, with my that intersectionality moment, it's definitely helped me gain a stronger backbone, have strong support system to help me on this journey, and to really educate others who don't know, and help them see what we're seeing and understand that we are human, and together is the best way to thrive rather than, fighting and tearing each other down. So it all comes into play like that. So I believe that I am the change that I want to see in the world. And what I'm doing right now is leading towards that change.
Thank you, CeCe.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Councilwoman Jenkins?
Yeah, I think my purpose is to really try to bring, I think, understanding, awareness, and humanity, right, to trans and gender non-conforming people's lives, our histories, our stories. It is, I came out as a trans person like 30 years ago, 31 years ago to be exact.
Ooh, okay.
And when I came out, like the language, like the word transgender didn't even exist. It was, we talked about people who had trans experiences as transsexuals or transvestites, which was, derogatory, but certainly it's actually still in use in England, in UK. But we didn't have that kind of language. There was no acronym LGBT, like it was just gay, right? And so I've always tried to put myself in spaces where Black trans women were not expected to be, right? And including Southern New Hampshire University, right? Like I was the only Black trans person in my cohort on that campus. period. But you know, prior to that, and I do it here because I was really trying to just continuously push myself to see where I could go, like how much progress I could make as an individual, not necessarily recognizing that being in those spaces actually opened doors for so many other people. Like that wasn't necessarily the goal. It was about me trying to make myself have a support network, have a system of people that would look out for me if I ever needed that kind of support. And I think, you know, I look now at what the world, I mean, we have trans athletes competing in, you know, Olympic trials, the show,
the Olympics,
yes, all the things. You know, the show Pose, which was written by, directed by, starring trans and gender non-conforming people, nominated for multiple Emmy Awards. You know, Laverne Cox on the cover of Time magazine. Yep. Oh yeah, your girl Andrea on the cover of Time magazine.
So we've come a long way, is what you're telling us.
We have come a very long way. And in some small way, I feel like I have, you know, played a role in kind of opening up that space.
Absolutely.
For people to step into and be recognized. And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you know, I did to that end and to perpetuating that idea. You know, I was the oral historian for the Transgender Oral History Project, which became one of the largest oral history projects documenting trans and gender nonconforming people's lives in the world. We and when I say we, I'm really talking about me, right? Like, but we interviewed like 198 trans and gender nonconforming people.
Wow.
And those stories are in multiple formats. You can watch the video, you can just listen to the audio, or you can read the transcripts. And then, you know, and there was a component of we, right? So we worked with editors and things to create little videos. If you want to just kind of understand what trans people's family relationships are like there's a 8-minute video that you can watch with people talking about their experiences with their families, or employment, how are people's experiences. So that is the ultimate sort of, I think,
guide,
as well as, I think, contribution to creating that kind of awareness, that understanding, that opportunity for people to go back and look at it. You can, absolutely. It's all free. The beautiful thing, this project I did through the University of Minnesota, and the project lives online. It's the largest LGBTQ archives in the country, the second largest, I'm sorry. The first is in Los Angeles, the One collection, which is a collection of LGBT history. But this is the second largest, and the largest trans repository. So people can go check it out. It's free
And
of
what's
charge.
it called?
It's called the Treader Collection, Treader, T-R-E.
Okay, the Treader Collection.
T-R.
And I will send it. I will send that because I want that to come here. I want our faculty and our staff and our students. I want that to be available to them as well. And
Absolutely.
Although I didn't mention that, it is remarkable colleagues who are on this call. So hopefully Paul Jenkins, who is our master librarian, will be able to assist me in making sure that we can get that out. Okay, Paul? Okay. And you know
awesome.
what? You spoke, both of you all spoke of being beacons of sort of pioneering and making pathways, right? So that other people can be more free, can be freer to be able to live authentically as they are. So I'm going to ask you this, and so I'm going to go off script a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm going to ask you this. Both of you went to predominantly white universities, whether that be undergrad or graduate. Both of you are living in a world that is not as welcoming to you as we would want them to be, right? How did you navigate an environment where everyone being who you are could have been a barrier to you achieving, to you moving forward? You can, whether you start in college, you can start at any point in your life at all. I want to know how you did it. What was it like?
You know, I think you just gotta go through it. You just gotta wake up every day, because there's no real formula. It gets a little easier over time, but not really. Like, I literally just had an event earlier this morning, Women in Real Estate. I got an award.
Woo! Okay, show the award.
I got an award
Wow,
this morning.
I want
Woman of the Year, they
Just
said, in real estate. But like literally, it was probably 60 people in the room. Only 2 distinguishable people of color or Black people. And I'm talking about my identity as a trans woman. I'm clearly Black. I'm standing in front of this all white group. And, you know, it can be intimidating. And I was almost at a point of censoring myself about how I told my story, but I didn't. I pushed through, but so when you ask how you did it, Pierre, I'm continuously doing it every day. It has not stopped. And I don't know how you feel about that, CeCe, but
absolutely.
And I think even more so for trans and gender nonconforming people than LGBT or LGB people. You know, we have to come out, or we do come out like every day. When I walk out the house, people are like, is that a man? Is that a woman? Like they, you know, it's always
passing, a struggle for passing.
Yeah. So
did that person get it?
I don't know.
Did they get it? No, I was saying the everyday struggle for basically what Councilwoman Jenkins was saying is that we have to come out every day, meaning we have to pass every single day. Like we look in the mirror and we're like, okay, I'm passable today, but are we passable to everybody else around us? You know? So that's the daily second of every minute of every hour struggle that we face, literally on our mind constantly.
And
so,
you know,
and it's,
go ahead.
You can
please
finish. I was just
gonna say around the whole concept of passing. Like I used to struggle with that so much. And at some point I just had to say, hey, this is who I am. This is how I look. there's no,
but then it's up and down.
I'm not changing it. Yeah, some days, you know, I don't want to wear makeup. I just want to be who I am. And so whether I pass or not, you know, I am who I am, and I am comfortable with myself. So that's what you got to get to, Pierre, is you got to get to a place where you love and appreciate yourself.
And so, everybody has dysmorphia, right? Everybody has some sort of dysmorphia. However, they might not be able to identify on the level that we are on, right? Which is kind of extreme. Because why should we wake up every day feeling like, you know what I mean? Like we have to pass in order to look female or look male, or like making sure that everybody else gets it. Like, why do we have to do that? Nobody else has to do that. They wake up every morning. Nobody has to put makeup on. Some people throw sweatpants and sweatshirt on and people still get it. So it's just like, they're training themselves, which is their intern. They're working harder to like go against something that is affirmed. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of crazy. And I also wanted to add that how I deal with it, or how I, you know, it took a lot. Definitely my environment, my friends, 100%. I could not do it without my friends, because they gave me the courage to be like, I don't care. Therefore, nobody, it shouldn't matter to anybody else. I'm like, yes, because you're my friend. I love you. You support me unconditionally. So that's a big thing. And mental health is huge. Nicole Newell, I love you so much. Franklin Pierce, health department, mental health counseling, shout out to them, because that's huge, especially for an athlete. Like, mental health is 100% necessary. I don't care what anybody says. Like, all athletes should participate and do it on some sort of level. And like, what counseling and mental health has helped me understand is that people are not going to get it right away, and that's okay, because everybody, myself, and the people that I love around me are also transitioning with me. So give them a little bit of time. Yes, give them a little bit of time, but that time is going to expire, and you're going to have to, because you know what I mean? When you were born, people got it. So therefore you need to get it, because I understand the communication, but at some point I can't keep explaining myself. I can't keep, defining myself to make you feel happy. You can do that research too. There's Google. And at the end of the day, I'm giving you all the signs, all the confirmation, all the affirmation. I'm affirmed. So like, why are you second guessing, So that mental health aspect comes back to me. I'm like, I'm affirmed. Like, if they want to go against what they see, then that's on them. Yeah.
So what happens
once they're...
Yeah, no, so I'm sorry to interrupt. So this is brilliant what you both are saying. So what happens, what would you do, or what happens if someone just will not see you, call you by the right pronoun?
Like Dave Chappelle? Is that?
Like Dave Chappelle did, yeah, exactly. But so you on that level, but let's take it back a little more sort of average and ordinary. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're sitting in the classroom, because we're a university, right? So I want to sort of relate this to the university. Let's say you're sitting in the classroom and you have a professor who is just not calling you, who's not seeing you and respecting your pronouns. How long do you give them, CeCe? How long does you give Dave Chappelle, Councilwoman Jenkins, before you call them out, or before enough is enough?
Oh, how do you get to that? You correct them the first time, and if they still don't get it, then you look around like, who is you talking to? Because I already let you know the first time, I'm not going to answer your question, because you're going to have to address me appropriately. Like, no, that's unfair. That's denying me of my humanity and of myself. Especially after I addressed it the first time, then mistakes happen. However, there's ways to indicate that it was a mistake. You correct yourself. You make it known that I messed up. No judgment, no animosity. It was a mistake. Cool. We can move on, because we're all adults.
Right. Yeah, no, in the classroom, you get one shot. That's it. Like, right? Like, I'm paying to be here. Most universities have policies around, these issues. I'm an educator myself. And so I know we have policies about how students want to be referred to. So in the classroom, you get one shot. In my family, I'm like CeCe. They're transitioning. They get, I'm trying to bring them along. to be honest with you, I don't fully understand the phenomenon of transgender identity. And in fact, nobody on the planet does, right? Like it's like how, there's all these varieties of flowers. How do they come to being, right? But they're still flowers. How do the variations of humanity come into being? It doesn't matter. What makes Ray Charles a genius? We don't know. I mean, the blindness maybe played a factor in it, but we don't know, and nobody cares, right? Like, you just accept him for who he is. And that is the same, I think, with trans and gender nonconforming people. Trust me, I would not be doing this if it was not a deep in my internal soul telling me this is who I am, because the ramifications of being a 6'2" tall Black trans woman, if it wasn't my deep reality, there would be no way I would walk through every airport in the country and cities and be subjected to, all the cat calls, all the things. If just
let them know, Councilwoman Jenkins. Let them know.
Right? Like,
yes.
They're, this
I wouldn't go through
not
invasive medical processes in order to compete and live my life and like be affirmed. Like, I wouldn't put my body through this aggressive like medical like process. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, if this isn't me. And the more I'm going through it, the better I am, because I see what it's doing for me. It's making me more and more like who I am, like affirmed. So
your outside is matching your inside. Is that what you're telling me?
100%.
100%. Yeah.
I hear that so much.
And then again, it's still for like trans folks, it's never 100%. We don't 100% feel like, even when everything is complete, like it's always something, something,
Yeah. Developing that love for yourself is a universal struggle, but I can see that there are different dimensions when it comes to intersectionality of different identities, and so this is the kind of information that is very informative and helpful for everyone to understand. So thank you. I thank you for going there, both of you. We're gonna go a little bit further too in a minute. So just take a deep breath. All right. So let me ask you this.
You're mute. Sorry. You're on mute, Pierre.
Something muted you, Pierre.
Pierre, you somehow went on mute.
Sorry about that. All right. I'm African American. I'm gay. I'm Black. I'm shorter than the both of you, but I wear eyeliner every day. So I don't know what you're talking about. Every day I wear eyeliner. So
okay, all right.
There's not a day. But anyway, I respect that. But I will ask you, in the LGBT community, which are you all having? Do you all have a more difficult time getting support, understanding from the LGB community? And if you have, I want you to talk about that. Because that has a lot of different ramifications. CeCe, you're shaking your head like there's some issues. Go ahead.
Your issues, enough issues, okay? For all y'all don't know, that was Jamaican.
Jamaica.
Yeah, Wagwan, Medea, yeah. So, yes, there are a lot of issues because this shows that like nobody's perfect, no certain group is perfect. The LGBTQI plus group is under a lot of like scrutiny, hate, discrimination, but then we're also fighting against each other. So personally, I know that we all have different like struggles, but personally, I know that I get a lot of negative feedback and, you know, problems from the lesbian community. They all have a problem with women like myself, especially when it comes to participating in sports. They think it's very unfair, especially, you know, big pro athletes, like icons like Martina Marvelosa. I'm sorry, I pronounced her last name wrong, but she had a lot to say about you know, trans females competing, and she does not agree with it because she thinks that at the end of the day, we're gonna go back and get women pregnant and then revert back to, I don't know where she gets that mentality from, but things like that. You have a platform, you know, everybody's gonna listen to you, and then you're part of the LGBTQI+ community, and you're gonna say something like that. Yeah, everybody and their grandmother plus the cis community and heterosexual community is gonna jump on that wagon and be like, yeah. So it's just like, you're not setting a good example here, you know what I mean? And you're using your platform to also like bash on another what's it called? I'm sorry, minority, another oppressed group. Thank you so much. Another oppressed group. And it's like, come on, we're all in this fight together. What do you do? You know, so I get a lot of hate from the lesbian community, 100%. And I don't know why, because it's like, girl, we're on the same team. Like, well, woman power. Like, what are you doing?
I'm not going to speak for your experience, but I do think that TERFs or trans exclusionary radical feminists are more likely to be adverse to trans athletes, you know, competing. You know, I'm currently living with multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed on my first campaign back in 2017. But prior to that, I was a pretty decent athlete myself. And I played tennis like Martina Navratilova, and you know, and I was pretty good. But there are a lot of women. Pretty much all my tennis partners are women, and some days they win, and some days I might win. Like, you know, the athletic, this notion that somehow men are better athletes or stronger, you know, it just depends on the individual.
Oh, we know that. Do y'all remember the male and the female back in the 60s, or was it the 70s? Who was it, y'all?
It was in late 70s, maybe early
and she won.
80s.
Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean King, yeah. She beat Bobby.
It don't matter. He was.
What was his name? Bobby
Riggs. Was it
Bobby Riggs? Yeah.
Yes. So we know that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. She beat him. She wasn't a trans woman, or, you know, like, she was just a better tennis player. And that is the realities. So all of these 130 laws that have been introduced in different state legislatures all throughout the country, and pretty much every state legislature, you know, to really target trans athletes. It's just cruel. But, you know, in high school, those kids all have the same level of you know, strength,
athletic skill. Yeah.
And athletic skill.
Yeah.
Or not, right? Like, some kids can't play sports, and that's just, you know, their physical makeup.
Right.
And so it's really just an attack on the community. But going back to your question about the broader LGBT community and what are the intersections in related to trans, I kind of have the opposite experience from what CeCe is stating. And that is, I tend to have less relationship, less understanding from gay Black men, and gay men more broadly. But, you know, when I came out as trans, like initially, you know, I've been through every single identity on the acronym, right? I'm currently in an 11-year relationship with a woman, so lesbian, right? I was solely identified as gay. Clearly, I'm bi. You know, it is having had that experience. When I came out as trans, all my Black gay male friends, they went away. They just could not relate to me and the issues that I was dealing with in terms of accepting my trans identity. So that has been a challenge. And then just gay males in general, I tend to have much stronger relationships with lesbian identified folks and within the bi community than I do with gay. But that's, you know, I think, but what we do know is racism is real within the LGBT community across the board.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Councilwoman Jenkins, I know
sexism is real, right?
Yeah, period.
Sexism is still there.
Amen.
So just because people identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, whatever, they still have to work on their phobias, their internalized phobias that we all deal with. You know, it's a constant, you know, when I hear people say, I don't have a racist bone in my body. I'm like, do you live in America? Were you socialized in America? Because if you were, you do.
That's what
I know I personally have to work on myself every single day.
Every day.
To check my sexism, to check my internalized homophobia, my internalized transphobia, my internalized racism.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
You know, because I hear the messages that the media sends about Black people. So I have to work hard to do that. And so to anybody, I know that the former president didn't do the work. So how does he not have a racist bone in his body? He ain't doing the work. I mean, and we got Confederate symbols all over the place, highways named after Confederate generals. And by the way, the Confederacy lost the war.
Oh,
you guys.
Yes, right.
I'm on my soapbox.
Councilwoman Jenkins.
And this is being recorded, so let me just
it's all right. Listen, we're gonna we could do this because I wanted to talk about, we're gonna open it up for questions now, Derek, in just a moment. But just know this, I wanted to also talk about how we can become allies and what is an ally, how we can better support and how can we better educate ourselves, what sites or things like that that we can educate ourselves. So there's a lot. I wanted to talk about what's going on in Texas, where Texas is trying to stop trans children's parents from supporting them, whether that be in school or whether that be through therapy or whether so we haven't even gotten to the good stuff. So I might have to have y'all back on next in the springtime sometime so we can continue.
I thought you were going to talk about. I thought you were going to talk about the reproductive rights issues in Texas, because that's a trans issue too. That issue is about who has autonomy over their own body.
Amen.
And so, reproductive rights, trans rights are intersectional. I saw a question in the chat, does the T belong in the LGBT acronym? I would posit yes. it does, because we are all sexual minorities, as it were. And in that context, you need, in order to achieve true, I think, liberation, we have to have coalitions, we have to have, you know, collaborations. And so and allies. And so I think that the T should remain in that conversation, because trans people can be lesbians, they can be bisexual, they can be heterosexual. And so, yes, they belong within that context, in my opinion.
I agree.
Thank you.
I was just,
Yep.
yeah, I just wanted to add like 30 seconds onto like the conversation, like prior, like the question prior about, you know, how we felt about our communities, like, and how they see us. I wanted to add that like our experience, like because we're different, same community, but we're different on different levels. Like for me, my athletic identity takes over for now. So I identify as an athlete, as opposed to, you know, Councilwoman Jenkins, like you're civil rights, like you're an activist, like you're up there, you're in the government. So when it comes to athleticism, I feel like everybody in our community is like, yay, we support, but whoa, once it comes to trans girls competing with cis girls, it's like, wait a minute, hold up. I support it, but not that. That is not okay. And then what adds to that is the fact that we're Black trans women, because it's policing of our bodies. Look at Serena Williams. Like, I think my body makeup compares to hers very well. And yet still, she got a lot of hate for her body and saying that saying all these things, right? So people are looking at me, and because I'm tall, I'm Black, and I'm kind of toned. Like, I'm not like super muscular, I'm just like a little bit toned. And then everybody's like, oh my God, do you see her? Do you see what she looks like? There's no way. Okay, but what about the white trans girls? Are we gonna talk about the white trans girls? Because they're here. You just don't know it, right? So it's just like, no, it's because I'm Black. Yeah, I think it's because I'm Black, and people have a problem with it because they feel like, remember back in the days, Black people competing in sports is unfair because their bone mass is too strong, they're too good. Nope, it's cheating.
That's right.
Isn't that what's happening right now? That's what's happening right now. They're looking at me and saying that because I'm tall and I'm Black, I have a huge advantage, not because I'm trans. We know that's not why, but it's because of what they see. So that's what I wanted to add my little 2 cents.
No, that's
very absolutely real. So that's where we differentiate. Real. And I feel like that's where we have more support from the, you know, the lesbian community, because they're like, yeah, you're all for civil rights and inclusivity, as opposed to me, it's like, wait a minute, you're cheating. How am I cheating? I'm a girl. I'm supposed to be competing with these girls. Sorry, let's move on.
Well, no, you're absolutely
right. I mean, that's the debate that in our country now.
And that's how we both of us brings something unique to this table of discussion, because we all have like that experience right there. Like, you represent on a whole another spectrum, while I represent on, like, you know, that spectrum, like of being an athlete and representing for our community, and you in the government and politics representing for all of us, you know?
Yeah, but you know, sports has played a major role, particularly in the United States, in shaping society and societal views. You know, the integration of Blacks into professional sports leagues led to more integration in other facets of American life. So I think this issue about trans women and trans athletes generally are really important issues to discuss. And wasn't there a trans masculine Olympian shot putter?
Yes. There is. She's a lifter. A weightlifter.
A weightlifter. But there was a trans person shot putting too. I was watching the Olympics. And so are people saying that trans masculine people who take testosterone, can they compete against other males? other
So I want you,
biological born male.
Councilwoman Jenkins, I want you to explain to everyone what you mean by transmasculine.
Oh, so a transgender person who is transitioning from female to male, or who presents and identifies themselves as male. So that is the definition of transmasculine.
Thank you. And the history of sports and how sports really opens up, busts the door wide open for other kinds of people to express themselves, that's in our history. And I think that the commodification of the Black body has always been there. We were commodities when we came here. We are commodities now. And so I am so indebted to the trans community, because you are at that inflection point that not only is the commodification of the body, but it's the control of the body. And when you're a trans woman, that's doubly so, because as you can see, we rule women's bodies here in the United States. It's even codified in law, or it's just trying to be codified in law, right? So I am indebted to you all's continued bravery to continue to walk the path that you're walking. I'm gonna say thank you, but I'm gonna open it up to the floor, if y'all don't mind, real quick, and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, please. And while we're doing that, I do want to just say, man, it's less about bravery, Pierre. It's about survival. Like I'm just trying to live, right? If somebody's got cancer, they are fighting to live. And I don't know if we call that courage or bravery or whatever, but and maybe we do, but I don't see myself as being brave. I see myself as I'm trying to survive. And other people may see it as bravery or courage or whatever, and that's fine. I'm not trying to deny people that reality, but for me, it's not about being a superhuman. It's about me just trying to live my life to the best of my ability.
Amen.
Let's hear some questions.
I'm going to jump right in and take this chance. Thank you both so much. So both of you referenced talking about emotional congruence and passing. And I work with individuals who are neurodiverse and disabled, and I'm both. And how do you empower people, especially if they have something invisible, like a neurodiversity or an invisible disabling condition, to speak about that, to own that, to be comfortable with it? It seems like that's the last thing that people will disclose is a disability. And the fact that going into the workforce, maybe they need accommodations and they face a lot of ableist attitudes. So how do I help empower people to feel really comfortable? Because our society does not embrace the disabled and neurodiverse. They are definitely a trod upon population. And sometimes it's really hard for people to own that. So how do I encourage my students to be powerful, to feel good about that, to know that they are complete even when, parts don't work?
Yeah. No, I tried to just model that, I think, a little bit, in disclosing my ability status, because actually living with MS, I'm disabled. And the reality is if you keep living long enough, you will be disabled as well. That's just the reality of you will not have the same abilities as you had when you were 20 or 15 or whatever. And so just trying to disclose that. Every time when I talk about equity, I always bring up issues around sexism, issues around ableism, to make sure that we are seeing the intersections of all of those various oppressions, as it were, and trying to just make space for people to be able to say, this is who I am. This is the issues that I'm dealing with, and I need you to understand and be willing to be an ally in helping me struggle for my independence and dignity and humanity as well. So that's, I think just showing up, you know, I use a cane now. It is, and it's interesting because people will ask me, what did you do to yourself, or how did you injure yourself? And, you know, it is kind of like an invisible disease. You know, even my own mother the other day, she was like, yeah, I know you got that little disability. No, Mom, it's not a little disability. I'm in chronic pain every day, you know, but people can't really see it. And so consequently, they don't think it is a reality. So I think, you know, just modeling that and creating space for people to talk more about that, TE, is how we can continue to overcome that stuff.
Thank you. That was beautifully said. Thank you. Yeah. CeCe, I'm sorry, were you going to add?
No, I was gonna agree 100% with Councilwoman Jenkins. Like, definitely talking about it and like making that more normalized would definitely, like, I feel like it would eliminate that element of surprise or you know, hiding it or discomfort, feeling like you have to disclose, because we're bringing everybody's aware of it. You know, there's awareness to it. So I agree 100% that. Talking about.
And I love what you said about courage, because I think that often the disabled population feels like they have to put on a brave face, and you are in pain a lot, and you are struggling. And I wish we could normalize a little bit that today I hurt and it's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. We have I think a student who would like to.
Yes.
Question. Is this Kiki?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Kiki.
So I have a question for CeCe. As a transgender woman, who is your biggest influence?
And you better say Councilwoman Jenkins.
Yes, oh, also Councilwoman Jenkins, you too. I can't forget about you. I can't forget.
CeCe, I'm listening. Who is your
Councilwoman Jenkins? Like, she's right here. Like, do I need to say anything else? But for real, like, there's a list of people that I look up to, you know, and Councilwoman Jenkins is definitely on that list.
Oh, you're so
sweet. I look at anybody who is for the community and is about inclusion and creating a safe space. And for example, for me, athletes that I look up to athletes when I was younger, because they always got good attention, you know, from the community, and they have a certain aura about them that has a leadership aspect, and people want to follow them and follow in their footsteps. So I always looked up to athletes because they had that certain like leadership mentality about them, you know, and they can bring a lot of different aspects to the table, and they can change people's like how they like the way people look on life. And I feel like athletes have the power to change a lot of hearts and minds. So I feel like that's where I come into play. So that's what I do. I look up to people who can create positive change. And I don't have a specific person or people in mind. It's a whole list. So if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Jenkins, did you want to comment on that, or shall we move to the next question?
Who are my heroes and sheroes? Was that the question? Mm-hmm. You know, wow, there's so many people. I look up to Shirley Chisholm, to Barbara Jordan, who was in politics. You know, I grew up in Chicago, Barack Obama, and we're literally the exact same age, full disclosure. And, you know, and I feel like both of us have been shaped by Chicago. You know, certainly I grew up there, but then he came later in life and spent the later half of his life. But actually, Michelle and I are peers, right? I grew up in the same neighborhood. We're the exact same age again. It's just, but the way he communicates, the passion that he brings to helping people, is very inspirational to me. My biggest hero is Harriet Tubman. I mean,
yes, I would say me too.
No
it's
question about it.
One.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And it's about the perseverance that she talked about.
With her.
That's what keeps. That's how. You know, Pierre, when you asked earlier, how do we do this? Mm-hmm. I think about Harriet Tubman. Like, you know, she says, when you hear them dogs, keep going.
Yeah.
You see them lights, keep going. You get hungry, keep going. You get tired, keep going. You know, and then she also said, you can't be free. I can't be free until everybody else is free.
Everybody else is free. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my inspiration. That's why I do what I do. That's why I try to create more space for Black and brown people. And don't think Harriet Tubman didn't, and people like Harriet Tubman, our ancestors, our Black enslaved ancestors, did not dream that Pierre and CeCe and Andrea would exist. They absolutely did. They went into their, whenever they got a little chance to be free and to be in their own heads to dream, they dreamed you, Pierre. They dreamed you, CeCe. They dreamed me being in these spaces to lead, to grow, to create awareness and understanding about the lives of Black people, Black trans identified people, Black gay identified people in this country. We are a part of that legacy, full stop, no question about it. And yeah, that is my
mic drop.
My hero. And actually,
so
right before the pandemic, I got a chance to go. I did a talk at Syracuse University. That's when we could fly around the country and show up at schools and talk. But Syracuse is about 20 miles from Auburn, New York, which is the last home of Harriet Tubman. And went to visit her home, and that was just one of the most moving experiences of my entire life. So yeah, thanks for that question.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm sorry, folks, but we're kind of out of time here. And
are you sure?
What?
We are
out of time. What do you mean?
Yeah. I want to thank you all. I really am deeply grateful for both of you for being here and sharing yourselves, your humanity with us all. And I just want to point out, everyone, before we go, that when that last question, both of our guests did not specifically say just a trans person was their shero or hero, because to both of them, they said that it was the character in the individual that mattered the most. You can't get no more inclusive than that, right? It's the character of the person. And I think my trans family members and my trans friends often look beyond the physical and other people and look for the character, do it so much better than cisgendered people typically do it. And that was an example right there. An example to answer that question. So I want to say I love you both, and Franklin Pierce loves you, and we want you all to come back here if we can get you to come back. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair
Wait,
enough.
I have one last thing to say
before
you make the last word.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that, like, throughout my life, I've experienced a lot of things. Like, you know, we all have experiences and we all have our past. And I just want to thank God for being here today. And also, I've had a lot of people in my I've had a lot of like rainbows in my cloud. And this journey is more than just me. It's about all of us. And it's about, you know, that diversity and inclusion road. But it's very important for me to show up and be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm doing this and why I have to do it. And I have to see it through to the very end. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. Be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud.
Amen. I was going to give each of you a last
tweet. Somebody tweet that. How many people are tweeting that right now?
Oh my gosh! Wait, when I find
be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Oh my God, that is beautiful. I'm getting emotional right now, CeCe. Can I just say,
Tubman. I got you.
Can I just say, I love you. I think you are beautiful.
Jenkins.
I cannot see all the other trans students on this call, but I want to say I love you.
We love you.
You are beautiful. Yes. Stand in your truth. Don't let anybody deter you from being who you are, because who you are matters.
Yes.
Representation matters. And yeah, I see you, I hear you, I love you, I stand with you, and keep the faith.
Amen. Me too. I'm here for you guys. I'm here for all of you guys, conforming and non-conforming folks, because together is better than alone.
Absolutely.
And with that, thank you so much for becoming a part of our family. You are now part of the Franklin Pierce Raven family. CeCe, you always have been. Councilwoman Jenkins, you are now part of our family. So we're going to see each other again. We're going to see each other again. And I'm a gay man who actually loves you. You understand?
Oh, thank you.
Not all black gay men are, okay, you're very welcome. CeCe, you know I love you, girl. You know I love you.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take care. I'm going to send this to you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
So much.
Be the rainbow in somebody else's cloud.
Amen. Yes, guys.
Thank you.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
All right. Bye-bye.
I'll see you guys on campus.